My name is Maddy Clifford, also known as MADlines. I'm a writer, musician, and social justice activist. I've lived in the Fruitvale neighborhood of Oakland for over a decade. What I love about Oakland is the city's innovation, the way Oaklanders think outside the box. There's a long history of people from all walks of life forging a way forward. As soon as I got here, I wanted to be part of the solution. Oakland taught me to find solutions to problems in some of the most unexpected ways. One existential problem facing our city and our world is the climate emergency. Scientists sometimes struggle to communicate with the public about how they can curb the effects of climate change. Experts share studies, statistics, and other facts, but still deal with misinformation, even climate apathy. Fortunately, the City of Oakland has created a 2030 Equitable Climate Action Plan, or ECAP. This extensive plan serves as a blueprint for best practices to help city staff maximize equity as the City of Oakland moves towards its goals of electrifying all buildings by 2040.
The unique climate and environmental challenges facing Oakland include our vulnerability to sea level rise, our number of toxic and contaminated sites as a result of our being kind of an industrial city, our vulnerability to wildfires coming into the urban area and smoke from wildfires, and also the income inequality, the history of racism, and the housing crisis that make certain Oaklanders so much more vulnerable to all of those impacts. A quarter of Oaklanders make under 30% of the area median income. 2/3 of Black Oaklanders are renters, while just half of white Oaklanders are renters. So when you start to look at those kind of statistics and you think about who has access to climate solutions, who has the time to think about how can I make my life easier and healthier and be part of the climate solution and have a household in a neighborhood that can adapt to the impacts of climate change, you really start to see the desperate need for a justice lens on climate action.
So how do we communicate with Oaklanders in ways that deliver life-saving information while also spreading hope? In 2021, I decided to experiment with using art to deliver messages about environmental justice. Turns out, there's a lot we can do as a community to combat climate change. I decided to produce a short-form album called Down Chance, which was featured in KQED Arts and included songs like Bike Life, about bike culture in Oakland, and Respect the Sacred, about acknowledging the sacred stewardship of Indigenous people. But this was only the beginning of my journey into bridging art with environmental justice. In 2022, I was selected as a Cultural Strategist in Government with the City of Oakland. The Cultural Strategist in Government program is a cutting-edge program that pairs cultural strategists and other artists with city governments to be thought partners.
The cultural strategists in government, the artists are sort of respectfully treated as thought partners. With my departments, they don't often have an invitation or opportunity to actually sort of be telescopic in their thinking about figuring how we can do something, improve on how we work as a unit. The paradox of Oakland is that it's both weak and strong. It's weak in the sense that it could be a more robust philanthropic support system. But it's strong because the artists here are resilient. They know how to get work done. They know how to make something out of nothing. They're miracle workers. It's the poetic will of the artists that drive this city.
It's just a unique approach as well too, is like the connection to the community. Like we have a certain pulse of the community, of the people, because we're really interacting with them on a real direct level and a grassroots level a lot of time, whether that's building up our audiences or whether just performing in neighborhoods or being from neighborhoods that we grew up in and knowing what works for the people, what works with the people a lot of times. And a lot of that is because we've grown our art in that space within the community. So bringing that perspective to the government as well, like this is what's happening in these places, this is what works in these places, have we really tried this from this perspective, from the people's perspective. I mean, I feel like especially here in Oakland, artists really try to reflect the pulse of the people, the heart of the people, and bringing that into a government space where they may not always have that perspective is very unique and very useful.
You see, although Oakland is a naturally beautiful city, legacies of environmental racism have resulted in disproportionate levels of air pollution, improper waste disposal, and higher than average temperatures in neighborhoods such as West Oakland and East Oakland. What this means is the climate emergency will have a more acutely negative impact on people living in West and East Oakland.
Oakland's Equitable Climate Action Plan is unique in that, first of all, 4,000 to 5,000 Oaklanders weighed in on the plan's creation directly. Second of all, it was one of the first climate strategies in the country to fully integrate social and racial and economic equity, to actually approach climate solutions from a standpoint of justice and who is benefiting first and foremost from our climate solutions. And the ECAP does that from a perspective of actually using science-based targets, actually looking at what is really feasible, not just what would it be nice to do, but what can we actually do given our regulatory and legal and financial limitations. And even with those really rigorous constraints, we still came up with a plan that is incredibly ambitious and puts us on track to be completely climate neutral by 2045 while addressing the impacts of systemic racism that have plagued Oakland for years.
One of our biggest challenges in the electrification campaign is what was the appropriate framing for this issue for residents here in Oakland? Whether it be public safety, whether it be housing, there are so many priority issues that Oaklanders face. And building electrification isn't necessarily going to be one of them. And so one of the things that we did a lot of brainstorming with in partnership with communities is about what are the most salient talking points that really register with people. And what we came to was about the health benefits. In California, 20% of childhood asthma cases can be linked to growing up with a gas stove in your home. And so telling folks about how gas contributes to indoor air pollution was a big one. The second one was safety. So folks care about, feeling safe in their homes, and gas is extremely flammable and explosive. And so if we can limit and eventually get rid of the amount of fossil fuels we use in our homes, we're all going to be safer in our homes as well. The third thing that we learned is that, money's tight. The economy isn't doing quite so hot, and people are really concerned about adding extra cost burdens to their current lifestyle. And so really talking up the incentives, the rebates, the other types of free loaner programs to try out an induction cooktop on your own. Those were also what we found to be some really powerful messages that people were like, oh yeah, that might be something I might check out now that I know it's a little bit cheaper and won't hurt me as much in the pocketbook.
For me, one of the biggest insights from the Cultural Strategist and Government program has been very simply that social media is not always this faceless, superficial messaging platform where you get a sentence out there into the universe and it kind of goes kerplunk. What I have learned from Maddy is that social media actually can be this very human, very compassionate medium where you really can reach people, number one, and you actually can embrace nuance. It can actually be part of a constructive dialogue.
I created dozens of short videos urging Oaklanders to ditch their gas stoves or showing them how to get rid of food scraps in order to keep them out of landfills. The bridge between the two campaigns was methane gas, often dubbed natural gas. It's not natural. As I continued to work on the project, I noticed something unexpected. The information was changing my behavior. I must admit that I didn't always properly sort my waste, and now I do. I also recently purchased an induction cooktop, and I routinely talk to my friends about why gas stoves contribute to indoor air pollution. What I discovered through this process is, if it's possible for me to change my behavior, so can others.
As government, we really struggle to effectively communicate with all the residents of our city. I think that's a struggle for all government, actually. Like, I don't think government does a great job talking about government at all. Like, I think we're really focused on like doing the work, but I think it's really important to like step back and think about how we're communicating with the public, since ultimately we're serving the public. One of the things that make Oakland great is kind of how diverse our population is in terms of language and ethnicity and age and interest. And simultaneously, I think it makes it a bigger challenge to effectively communicate with everyone. And I think it's something, at least on the recycling team, we've been aware of as a need to be more effective in targeted messaging. But finding the time and the strategies and the partners to do that really effectively without having an increase in staffing is definitely a struggle. So our main focus this year was ensuring residents are aware of the requirements to keep compostable material like food and plant debris out of the trash and get it into the compost, and keep recyclable materials out of the trash and get it into the recycling. Another thing we've been focusing on is helping ensure residents are aware that recyclables need to be empty, clean, and dry before they're placed into the recycling cart.
The Cultural Strategist in Government program came out of the Cultural Plan in Oakland that was adopted in 2018. And it is important because it really comes out of the heart of the cultural plan, which is that cultural equity is what we need for justice in our city, and that cultural strategists and not creative people, not just artists, but culture keepers and culture bearers are important to have as thought partners in government, so that government can really serve the people that they're trying to serve better. The climate emergency in Oakland and in the world is one of the most dire things that we have to pay attention to. And so we need all of the great thinkers and creative thoughts and innovation that we can muster to be able to help people understand how they can have agency in the fight for really keeping our Earth sustainable.
The cultural strategist in government position is really important for artists because of the fact that it's really difficult, first of all, to live in Oakland and to maintain yourself as a full-time artist, whether you're a musician, a visual artist, a dancer. And one of the things that I think we often forget is that artists make cities worth living in. Artists, not only do they entertain, do they beautify communities, but they also tell stories of a city. And we all know that the artists in Oakland have made Oakland what it is today, and have made Oakland a place where people from all over the world want to come visit. And one of the things that I really learned from this program was a lot about how local city government works. It made me feel inextricably connected to local government, so that now I'm constantly wanting to respond to policies that are happening, to go to different events that are happening. And I think that more artists should know about this program, and that it should continue for years to come.